Awesome. Okay. Okay. So we are week, what week are we on?
This is episode 16.
Episode
I've moved
16.
away from calling it week something
It's just episodes
because
at this
yeah,
point.
I think we're just at a point where we're ready to call it
Yeah.
by episode. So this will be episode 16 of the functional effect
Okay.
optimization group, and
Nice.
we're going to cover a topic tonight that's kind of an overarching topic that really covers the essence of what we do at functional effect in the optimization coaching sphere, which is helping people manage their stress. And it starts by really kind of understanding the idea that burnout, what is burnout?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with this one as I went over what we were going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
This is something that people pay an insane amount of money to learn, because most people don't understand it. And people pay thousands and thousands of dollars to understand what we're going to talk about tonight. So I want to put that out there because this is definitely high value information that Sarah specializes in as well as me. So we're going to dive into this tonight, and we're going to talk about what burnout actually is, and we're really going to dive into the signs and symptoms of what it really is, because it's probably not what you think it is. It's a little bit different.
And most people miss the signs that their body's trying to give them, that they're circling the bowl of burnout until it gets to a point where there are major repercussions that force them to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I myself have been in this position, even as of recently, have had another run in with identifying another layer of burnout that I needed to address. And I think it's really important to know, because a lot of people think that burnout is a willpower issue,
Yeah.
that it's not wanting to show up. Burnout's a laziness thing, that it's a character flaw or a character defect.
Well, I'll actually say a lot of people, when they have very strong disciplined willpower and they have the ability to push through it, that's where we typically, in the long run, see more burnout.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like people's perception of burnout is one thing, but the actual picture of burnout is the high performer who just keeps pushing through everything their body's telling them and saying, I'm fine. And that same person, when you ask them, like, how are you? Their actual answer a lot of times is, I don't know, because they've become so detached from their own physical body.
Yeah.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
Out of self-preservation. And that's a lot of what we can see, as far as, not to dive too far into the physical symptomology of what burnout looks like, because we're going to cover all of that from all 6 dimensions of health. But realistically, burnout is a collection of symptoms that allow us to classify somebody into this sphere as someone who is struggling with burnout. Burnout actually has 12 phases, which we are not going to be getting into tonight. but burnout is really, it's been recognized as of 2019 by the World Health Organization as a syndrome that is comprised of 3 main elements. It's emotional and physical exhaustion, it's cynicism, and cynicism could also be like detachment, or the sense of like take whatever you're trying to give me and shove it. And then the last element of it is a reduced efficacy or reduced efficiency at whatever it is that you do, because burnout is realistically a syndrome that is recognized by unmanaged workplace stress. But in my humble opinion, and I think in many of us who are in the industry's humble opinion, we know that stress is not just relegated to work and the workplace. And so when we think about burnout, we really have to think about it as unmanaged stress that occurs in all 6 dimensions of one's health. And that's the difference in the WHO's definition of burnout and what I see happening within my clients, within our members at our gym. It is stress that's coming at them from all angles.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part for people to understand about this about themselves is actually saying like they're aware of it.
Sure.
Because they're just like, well, something's off, this, and then eventually they get to a point they're like, oh wow, like, and that's what we're going to talk about, because you start checking the boxes off about what we're going to talk about, and you're like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, and I'll tell you, you're at that point probably already that like you probably are in full blown burnout.
And we're going to break it down into all 6 dimensions of health. So when we think about, what are the 6 dimensions of health? We have our physical health, we have our emotional health, our mental health, we have our social health or relational health, we have our environmental health, and then we have our spiritual health.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about physical health as being that component that kind of everybody classifies as being like your typical health piece of the pie, what are some of the signs and symptoms that somebody is circling the bowl with burnout physically speaking?
Yeah. So pretty simple ones are going to be, hey, you go to bed at a normal time, or you try to, and you wake up at 2 a.m., right? Early, very early wake up, and you're wide awake, wired up.
Or the wired but tired feeling.
That one. You're cold intolerance issues.
Cold hands, cold feet.
Yep.
Really common.
We get into some like decreased heart rate variability. That one is, it's very, very low. Like a normal good amount would be like 50, 60 for a lot of people. Let's say that's normal. See a lot of people in burnout, they'll be in the teens or the 20s.
Well, and even if we're taking out an actual number out of the equation, if your baseline HRV, let's say that you yourself have a baseline, like if you have a wearable device, like I have a Whoop and I have a Garmin, they both give me my HRV. If I have an average typical HRV that's around 55 or 60, and all of a sudden I start to see my HRV drop into the 40s consistently, that is a red flag for me that something isn't right. And
yeah, and that's going to be
that happened recently,
for sure,
where I was having a really great HRV trend all through the summer, all through the fall, and then I got into the winter months, and all of a sudden we saw my HRV drop by about 20 points on average. And lo and behold, my body started to go into this physical response to whatever it was that was going on, which is to be unpacked on a whole nother call a different day. But HRV for me was one of those things that I saw dipping. A couple other things that we might see with somebody physically are digestive changes. So if you see a change in your bathroom visits in either direction, whether they are harder to come out or they come out too often or too frequently, that can be definitely some of the physical signs, as well as any changes for women. Changes to your menstrual cycle are another key indicator, like loss of cycle or an early cycle or a heavier than normal cycle. Those could all be key indicators too that something is going on in that realm.
Yeah, and men are a little bit more straightforward, usually like loss of libido, very common to see during burnout.
For women too.
And for women too. Guys, it's just a little more obvious at times, because
that morning report card, right? Yep. So for men who are circling burnout, that morning report card or raising the flagpole is going to become a lot harder or possibly non-existent.
Yep.
So if you are a man and that's not happening for you, you might want to check in with yourself and see where you might be at on that burnout scale and what you might be able to do to start righting the ship.
Yeah.
Now, let's move past physical health and let's move into emotional health, because here's the thing about emotional health and emotional stress. Emotional stress is single-handedly the biggest driver of physiological health changes. So when we talk about emotional signs and symptoms that you might be struggling with burnout, what are we going to see?
Biggest one, irritability. That's got to be probably number one.
Yeah, having an extra short fuse and for extra silly reasons.
Mm-hmm. And then once you start going down that road, and then it just becomes like numbness. right? You're just like, like the affect is just flat.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people running, and it kind of goes along with we talked about sleeping, that anxiety driven. A lot of people wake up, they're at 3 a.m., heart racing,
heart pounding, tight chest, anxious, mind racing, all the things.
and then probably the end game is just full detachment.
Absolutely.
Full detachment with
and that's
everything.
that's the person that I referred to earlier when I said, how are you feeling? And they're like, I don't know. What do you want to do today? I don't know.
The person who, when you ask them how things are, I'm fine. Like, that's all they say. I'm fine. And you're like, obviously you're not fine. It's blatantly obvious that things are not okay, but they've just had, like, oh, keep pushing forward, because they have this goal or whatever they have to get through, and but really that goal is never ending if you don't address the stuff.
Yeah. So emotional signs and symptoms can be very, very clear, and then we have that crossover into the mental or cognitive symptoms, because emotional and mental, very, very interwoven and interrelated, but also at the same time very different symptomology. From a mental health perspective, we're going to see things like brain fog.
Yep, for really bad focus, which is tied right into that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. We're going to see somebody who might even have like a very clear sense of cynicism, where it's just everything is negative, everything is worst case scenario, everything is bad.
Yeah, they can't see. I think I like to, what I've seen, because I've worked with some clients with some extreme burnout. Yeah, they just find no joy in anything. Like, not like, even like, one of the ways that I look at it, I'm like, can you find joy in the simple things in life? If you can, it's great. If you cannot, good chance you're burned out.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think another really clear one, like I had referenced within the emotional burnout side, same kind of thing with mental burnout. It's the decision fatigue, a case of the I don't knows, or the I can't make a decision. That is a very clear sign and signal that you are circling burnout.
Yeah, yeah. And then moving forward to the spiritual, existential, right, side of things, what are the main symptoms there?
Feeling disconnected, and especially disconnected from your purpose. So, for instance, for me, being burnt out could look like me feeling completely detached from all things health and wellness and not wanting to invest any of my time or attention there, when it's something that I quite obviously love and quite obviously have dedicated almost a quarter of a century to studying. So if somebody saw me completely check out from the health and wellness industry, I think that would be a pretty clear signal that I might be struggling with burnout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you just kind of go through the motions.
Absolutely.
There's just no feeling behind it. They're doing it because they kind of have to do it, because maybe, it's a paycheck. They still have work to do. They have a business to run or whatever it may be. And there's just no joy in it anymore. There's no creativity.
The general vibe becomes like, I just don't even care anymore.
I don't care. They don't care. And they've really lost their way. And because that affect is flat.
And you might be able to identify with that person we just described, or you might be able to think of somebody in your workplace, or if you're retired now, in your former workplace, like you could probably think of that person who was completely detached, unaware, withdrawn, and just kind of preferably minding their own business, when really they were probably just really burnt out.
Yeah, and the next one we're going to talk about, the social side, is probably just like I'm more passionate about this. This is probably the big one for me, because I'm really about brotherhood and people getting together and community. But it's isolation.
Absolutely.
They isolate themselves really bad because they're so burnt out. They just don't care. They don't want to be. Another person in the room is just exhausting. They're extremely quiet. That's pretty normal. Withdrawing from all social situations, like
things you would normally love. Like, let's say you play pickleball, or you have a mahjong group,
or golf, or
you name it. Fill in the group, a social organization, philanthropic groups, and all of a sudden you find yourself canceling plans, dropping your friends, and just canceling things on your schedule because you are just not in the mood to do it.
Or maybe you have a family event where, I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone's family can be quite difficult, especially if you have a large family, but they don't have the capability to be around their full family. They're so mentally done.
Yeah.
So those are the big ones. And I think as I went through, because Sarah's taught me so much to understand true burnout, I've learned a lot about to help other people through this.
I think the thing that's really important to understand about burnout is that burnout doesn't just affect the way you feel and affect your energy levels. It truly ultimately affects the way that you experience your entire life and the way that other people experience you. And even though you might not feel like you're putting forth the worst version of yourself, when you are stuck in a burnout cycle, I can almost guarantee you that you are putting forward the worst version of yourself because you're not able to dedicate the energy, the focus, and the correct intensity to bringing forth the best version of yourself when you're in burnout, when you're truly burnt out. And now there again, you could be just circling the bowl of burnout, or you could be deep in level 12 burnout, which is really going to result in physical illness. Even for some people, it ends in hospitalization.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I've experienced it myself. Story for another day. Okay. But my physical stress let's just say this. Our local hospital, for a period of time in my life, they knew me by my first, middle, and last name because I was there so often due to the side effects, if you will, of my chronic unmanaged stress.
And if we would have known all the stuff we know now, I mean, that was a long time ago, would have helped a lot.
Well, and a lot of this was, again, I don't think that I would be able to speak from the place that I do today and teach others the way that I do today had I not been the N=1 of my own story and experienced things at a deep level to where I can now pass along that knowledge and that experience. So I'm really, at the end of the day, grateful for my own burnout experiences. There's been multiple of them, not just one. And they've come in different seasons of my life. And each time I've experienced burnout, it has taught me something new.
Okay. So if someone thinks that they might be in a state of burnout, what is the first step to start steering the ship in the right direction?
Well, just like with anything that might be negatively affecting you, whether it be addiction, whether it be illness, the first step is admitting that there's an issue, admitting that there is an actual problem. Because many, like we talked about earlier, are in a hardcore state of denial. And it's not because they don't believe in it. It's because they truly don't think they're stressed out because they have become the frog in the boiling pot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with that story, the frog, there was a frog who sat in a pot of water, and the long story short, he gradually got cooked to death because he didn't realize that the temperature was being turned up over time. And the same thing happens with humans. We don't realize that temperature is getting turned up over time, saying yes to more things, getting less sleep, eating less nutrient-dense foods, holding fewer boundaries, being emotionally over-available or unavailable. All of these things.
Because when you're so deep in it, it's very hard to see it.
It is. So the first step is admitting it. And after you admit it and you recognize that there's a problem, the next obvious step is to start gathering data.
Yeah. So this is where the data, a handful of things that we really want to dive into. Like labs are always good to see how your body internally is doing. That's great to look at.
Getting a comprehensive lab marker test that looks at everything from inflammation markers to your liver activity,
Lipid
to your
profile,
lipid profile, to your thyroid
your
function,
hormone function.
all of the things can really peel back the layers of how your stress is affecting you on a physiological level.
Because you can start to really connecting dots at that point. You can look at someone's lifestyle and put in these biomarkers and be like, this adds up. And I've done this with clients. And I've seen, like, look at your numbers, look at what you're doing, and we put them together and, like, and here's the changes that need to be made.
Yep.
Either your lifestyle, your food, your social life. There's a lot of, what Sarah does. So we talk about that deep health element, and that's what you have to go into.
Well, and just like we don't create workouts without assessing somebody's movement, this is our new assessment system when we're talking about health coaching and nutrition coaching and looking at the other 23 hours of the day. If the person that you're working with isn't peeling back the hood and having you look at what's going on, I would genuinely question that person, and or ask them where you could get it done, because those markers can be very telling in what's going on with someone. In addition to lab markers, you could also do things like stool testing, which stool testing is going to differ from getting blood lab markers in that you're going to see what's happening with your digestion. And oftentimes what we see with people that are dealing with burnout and chronic stress, this is, talking about me again, is that we can be poor absorbers.
Yeah.
And what we found in my recent stool test that we got back is that I was not absorbing protein well.
Yeah.
That I had undigested protein in my stool test. So we had to adjust my protein intake accordingly. And we had to adjust some of my macros because my body was showing that certain things weren't clearing out of my system. And so we knew that my digestion had been compromised, and we knew why it had been compromised, but we had to go back to the drawing board. And we're 1 week into riding the ship with my diet. And I wish I had a side-by-side picture of the inflammation in my face. It's night and day.
Yeah, she's been diagnosed now for, almost 16 years with Hashimoto's.
Lucky me.
And she's been gluten-free for the majority of that time, and a lot of times dairy-free as well. But what we've noticed, and really if anyone has any sort of autoimmune, you got some gut issue. What level is, that's why we do these tests, because you can find out a lot more. But what we found out is, yes, gluten-free is great, right? But with Sarah, it was even a little bit deeper than that. We had to go full, like, grain-free on all levels. We just had to get rid of it. And that's instantly, within a few days, it started making big differences on big parts of her health.
And now, is that elimination addressing the root issue? No, but that's what we're dealing with behind the scenes. So making the adjustments to the diet is allowing my body to get into the right state that I need to be in order for it to do the job.
So now she can absorb better, decreased inflammation, which means your nourishment's going to get better. Because really, it's a large part, just the nourishment level is going to be massively decreased due to it. Right?
Yeah. So once you can do that, you gather the data, look at what your body is telling you, look at the trends of what your body is telling you also. It's then getting the support that you need. And whether that be working alongside a coach to unpack what that looks like, whether that be coming alongside us in one of our groups, like Balance to Breakthrough, this is week 6 of the 8-week group. We run it every spring and every fall. Or if it is having an accountability partner in a friend or your gym buddy, it's finding the support system that is going to walk alongside you during this journey to help hold you accountable and to give you tools to start showing up differently.
Yeah. You want to have someone who is going to call you on your shit, right?
And in a loving way.
In a loving way, and be there for you, right? Is it just going to be like, it's okay, everything's great? Like, it's not okay, right? It's not everything's right, and that's okay.
It's okay to not be okay. I actually have a sweatshirt that says that, and I love that idea of, like, being fully content with sitting in the fact that you're not okay right now.
But when you have someone in your corner or a group of people in your corner, oh man, it's so much better. You can talk about things. People have different experiences, and you got to get it off your chest sometimes.
Well, and to know that when you're working alongside someone in what I like to call the judgment-free zone, where I'm here to tell you that if you have something happening and that you think that you're the first person who's come to me with that thing, I'm sad to tell you that you're not. And I'm not going to judge you for it. And even more likely is that I've experienced it too. Because I'm a human being and I am far from perfect. And a lot of the time, the only reason I know how to coach a lot of the scenarios that are happening with my clients are that I myself have experienced those exact scenarios. So as a reflection, I want you guys to be thinking, what signals have my body been giving me that maybe I've been misinterpreting and need to be looking at a little bit more closely as maybe being chronic stress signals or signals that are pushing me closer and closer to that state of burnout?
I call it whispers.
And if you don't listen to the whispers, eventually you will get smacked upside the head by the 2x4 of health problems. And it's going to happen slowly. And you're going to have symptoms that start out as maybe things that you shrug off. But eventually, somewhere down the line, something is going to happen that you can no longer ignore.
But there is good news.
What's that good news?
Good news is there's something you can do about it. Like, I think that's the good news. Like, the beauty is your body does have the ability to heal itself if given the right situation, the right understanding of the body. Is like the assessment matters to be able to look at it and say, hey, I need to dive deeper under that hood, and we got to figure out what's going on in all the different realms of deep health.
Yep. So as you think about the 6 dimensions that we talked about tonight and asking yourself, am I showing any of those signs that she talked about? If you find yourself in a place where you're saying yes to a lot of those different things, know that there are people out there like us who are willing to sit down with you, talk it through, and to see what is the best road forward for you when it comes to righting the ship. Because it isn't always necessarily going to be working alongside someone like us one-on-one, but when you know that you have somebody with expertise in your corner who can at least point you in the right direction, it's going to give you a little peace of mind to know that this isn't how you're going to feel forever. And your body is built to do the beautiful job of functioning well if you give it the right tools, like you said. So our job is ultimately to point you towards those right tools. And your job is to pick those tools up and to learn how to utilize them. So keep coming back each week so that you can start gathering more tools, because what we are going to do next week off of tonight's call is we're going to start unpacking the things that you can do in each of the 6 dimensions of deep health to start righting the ship, starting next week with your physical stress and physical health, and what are the things that need to be addressed in that dimension. So I hope you can join us next week for episode 17 of the Functional Effect Optimization Group. But remember, until then, you deserve to feel your best. See you next time.
Bye.